civil society. They really have to become a constituency that is recognized as such, not as token, but really with representatives or with people that can take their voices and express them, not just through the vision and the voice of adults. They really have to be trained in order to be able to themselves use internet governance. And unfortunately, for financial reasons, because they also have so many requests, otherwise, the 15 to 18-year-olds have to prepare for their different degrees, so they're not that much free. But we have to invent creative ways of making them participate, be it by distance, streaming, whatever. We now have a technology, why not use it more? And the last point that we have is sort of a joke recommendation. Recommendation number 10 is, if we want it to work, we need to have some people able to shake it. The way people like Frank Larue were able to shake it about human rights by being special rapporteurs. And Frank is today in a meeting, or else he would have been with us. But so the idea would be to create the position of a special rapporteur for education 3.0, just to shake it and move it regionally, because we know the issues are regional. Each region has its own stakes. But make sure that dialogues happen more and more and more, so that teachers and parents and young people can be really aware of all these issues and can take them. At the moment, it is too much something that remains the discussion, the dialogue of too few people. So we have to open up, we have to democratize IG, internet governance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Divina. Thank you to both of you. We have 10 minutes left, and really it's a time for dialogue. We can always, of course, meet outside of this room and throughout this week, so we are here to talk and go further. And of course, the papers will be available very soon. So I want to turn the tables to you to see whether you have questions. And while you're thinking about those questions to colleagues here, I mean, what I take away is the fact that children are online alone. We talk about solo kids online, and there are studies which say how many hours they spend alone online, and they're not with their parents or with their teachers, of course. Would that be a tablet or a phone or a laptop? You can imagine. And the question is that if they're alone online, what are they doing, and what's their navigation, what's their compass, what are their skills, etc. And quite clearly, when you think about access in developing countries, when you think about where we are going, it's a great opportunity, but there are also, of course, certain risks. So, you know, where will children be in the future with regard to access to the internet? Will they have the skills they need? Will they be excluded? Will they be included? Will they go along the career line, which is to say that we need values? What are those values? I mean, what's happening in Brazil? Do they have the values when they go online? Are they being taught in schools? Are they picking them up from YouTube tutorials? I'm being provocative, of course. But I open the floor to you, to your thoughts. And so if you have any questions, please raise your hands or come to the microphone even. Don't be shy. What's your feeling? This is a conversation which touches everybody, many people. It's a very real conversation for teachers, parents, those working in the government, those working in industry. We're all pushing for access. We're all pushing for internet. So it's all a great thing. But, what does that access really mean? Are we doing enough in schools? Are they getting the jobs that they need to get out of schools to connect, to have well-being, to have a life after school? Where does it lead us to? Or, the question is, are we happy with the way that we see the internet, access to the internet and schooling happening? Are we happy with where it's going? Your views? Yes, please. Do we have a microphone or?
It's not helpful for the streaming. People are following on streaming, so I think you should talk in the microphone so that you're recorded.
Thank you. I just have a very, a simple, quick question. Would Education 3.0 include the adults? Because why I'm asking is that I'm coming from Thailand, and the country right now is quite divided. We have some chaos in the country, and basically we have the right side and the left side, and people are believing, grown-ups are believing things on the internet, and they, on both sides, they both lie. And what is the problem here is that I think grown-ups, the adults, are as bad as children. I mean, so what I'm asking you is that when you talk about education 3.0 and internet governance, are we including adults and, you know, media literacy for adults at all? Thank you.
No, okay. Okay, thank you. Davina, quickly, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, quickly, because yes, media literacy is for adults also, of course. What happens is that with Education 3.0 and the amount of participation of people earlier online, of young people, is that they tend to also train adults, and that there's possibility of intergenerational training here, and we're hoping that this is what is happening. Yeah, but adults need it too, because adults and young people at the moment, we are all entering the internet pretty much without training. And we are hoping that the generation that was born on the internet, the so-called natives, would be better trained. It's not. It's operationally more or less active, but in terms of values, attitudes, critical thinking, citizenship, they need to be totally retrained, and we notice that among our teachers. So yes, it's all part of that, which is why we keep the word media, because media alerts you to the fact that there is manipulation, that there is construction of an opinion, and that you have to be aware of it. It's not just about information, the new data crunching, etc., etc. Media have to remain in it. A lot of the codes of the internet are media codes, and so we have to, I think, to keep the two terms.
Yeah, my name is Jutta Kroll. I'm from the German Center for Child Protection on the Internet. From the name of the organization, you might assume that I put protection first, but I really like the idea that protection and education are like communicating columns or pillars where we build on. What I liked on your paper was the transition from education 2.0, which means ICTs are support tools for education, to 3.0, which is media and information literacy and internet governance as well. But what I would like to discuss is that, to my opinion, it must not be that we take the step of education 2.0 and then wait that we can go to the next stage of 3.0. I think in many areas we still have not achieved education 2.0, and it might be the right point to just skip it and move forward to 3.0 and not thinking that we need 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Does anybody want, do you want to respond to that quickly? Yes, or John? No?
Well, just in any program that's got any kind of focus on child protection, parents and they're generally adults, not always necessarily, but normally they will be adults, have to be part of the picture. And so to that extent, your point ought to be being picked up. Whether this will mean that adults behave rationally, whether it means adults will suddenly become more critical about what they read in the newspapers. Maybe they will continue to believe that Elvis Presley is alive and living on the dark side of the moon with Lee Harvey Oswald, who killed President Kennedy, and all that kind of... I don't know. There's nothing we can do to guarantee that, but it certainly should be a byproduct of a good child protection policy.
Good morning. My name is Rodrigo. I'm from SaferNet Brazil. It's a Brazilian safer internet center. But also I'm here working with as a mentor of the youth group from Latin American, Caribbean, that we have some youth people here. And I don't know if everybody knows, but this IGF, we have 72 youth people from Latin American, Caribbean countries here from yesterday to the whole week. And my question is just to ask, how do you visualize the strengthening this kind of youth participation at IGF? And maybe we are thinking about how engage these youth groups that are already working at IGF. We have the Youth Coalition. We have the group from Asia, it's really strong, and another youth from Europe. But how do you visualize including children in this kind of internet governance forums and participations? Because it's really hard to really engage as a representative group, as John said, and maybe do you visualize trying to make youth groups include the children's early children to this discussion, maybe as a bridge between children and youth to bring all these issues to IGF and others forms? How the question is how to really effectively engage children as the recommendation 8 supposed to do in the practium issues.
Thank you.
Some of the really, really good child participation projects that I've observed closely, and actually the Danish one is an extremely good example of it. They have been unbelievably expensive. Sorry, I didn't realize somebody was waiting to ask a question. I'll be very quick. They were very expensive, very time-consuming. They had extremely skilled animators working with the children. And they got some great results. Those Danish kids, they were very, very impressive when they came to speak. There are lots of, and I work with children's organizations all the time. If children's organizations are not constantly talking to children, constantly in touch with children, they're not doing their job. They're not doing their job properly. But we have youth parliaments, we have youth councils in every country. Certainly in Europe and many other countries, there are institutions where young people are coming together to express views and express opinions. But some of the things we talk about in internet governance, even I have difficulty staying awake or understanding them. So, we need to be realistic about what we can expect people who are not as experienced, and where should they be? And some of the issues are not, what do we need to know about child pornography on the internet and fraud and phishing and things like this? I mean, there are some issues which we talk about that are completely inappropriate for certain types of very young audiences to engage with anyway. So we need to have a more realistic understanding and engage with existing institutions, I think.
Thank you, John. Oh, sorry, Davina.
I would just like to add, yes, there are institutions that exist where children can find the time to mature their ideas. But what I think is an alarm system to adults that we don't have a culture of participation, a lot of us, even among ourselves as adults. So what internet helps us is develop what I call a pedagogy for participation. We have to learn very early to speak in public, to ask questions, and they can be silly questions or very important questions. There's a very wonderful program in France called La Puce à l'oreille, where 7-year-olds ask questions to scientists. And their questions are quite remarkable. They can upturn things. And so we have programs also where children and researchers work together, asking themselves questions and trying to find solutions. So it's this pedagogy for participation that is key. That is, for me, the change agent. We have participation on the one hand, we have more and more educated people and adults on the other hand, not enough, but if we don't develop together a pedagogy for participation, it won't work. And in many of our cultures, the adults have the authority and they have a voice, full stop.
I think, thank you, Davina. We've got two more questions, and then we have someone on remote. So we really have only literally a few minutes left. First, the lady there, please, and then you, please. If you could be brief.
Okay, my name is Carmen, and I apologize because I'm late because of a big line outside, and I was very interested in this workshop. And I thought I could find more teachers here because it's a very important proposition. And that guy told us, asked us about the participation of the youth in Internet 3.0. And my question is about the teachers. because our problem here in Brazil, and particularly in Nordeste, are the participation of the teachers, the old teachers, that makes a very big resist in this work with the internet at school. And I work with it, and children are not the problem, they are the solutions. And so you have just answered my question, and I would like to hear something more about participation of these old teachers in internet and school.
Okay. Can we take your last question with the question of the lady here, please, when you say your name, and please, and then we have one last question on remote. Thank you.
I'm Angelique Ali Hussein del Castillo, and first my compliments for the study. It really is an eye-opener, especially the numbers, how many minors are online every day. My question has to do with who takes the lead in this? You know, education is usually a government responsibility, mostly formal education. So who takes the lead, NGOs or the government, in providing this kind of mind shift with children, in involving the children? Because we know in the formal education system, it's often quite difficult to make changes in how things are approached. It takes a lot of money, which brings me to the next question I also have. Are there any examples of where this has already been done? You just mentioned the Danish example where it costs a lot of money, but for developing countries, it's usually money that's the biggest challenge. So is there any examples of developing countries who've already started on this and where they have been successful, so we can take some lessons home? I think that's what I'll leave it at. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Davina, do you want to come in on that quickly? Because, or
Yes.
John, do you?
Quickly, and we can continue outside.
Yeah.
Just before IGF, there has been a big World Summit on education innovation called WISE. WISE is about the private sector taking over education, with a lot of money coming from oil, from computing, and everybody's sort of waiting for the next big Apple or big Microsoft that is going to be the hegemon of education online, private. If we don't move on education 3.0 as a public service, using internet as a public value, as a critical public resource, education will be totally privatized. And it means that in developing countries, in particular, poor parents are going to really bleed themselves to give education to their children, when in fact we could have a much more open online access to education that doesn't throw away, of course, some of the contributions of the private sector, but should remain within the remit of the public service. But it's true that the public service at the moment is extremely resilient and resistant, and we have to make our decision makers realize that if they don't move, if they don't facilitate change or accept the change that is already there, because what we think we would say, all of us, is that we're already at Education 3.0. There's already excellent tutorials online, excellent courses online. Wikipedia just for itself could become a vibrant university if we wanted to. So it's already there, 3.0, but not in the minds of our decision makers. If it doesn't happen, they'll be marginalized. Something else is going to happen that is going to be an online solution. And as a result, it's going to create more exclusion than inclusion when it has the potential of embarking everybody. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Davina. Thank you to the speakers. One last question, and we are over time. I'm not looking for inspiration. I'm looking at the question in front of me up there, which I think John will answer. It's a question from Shalini from India. How do you allow participation in order not to infringe them as a group? Meaning, I imagine children, while also ensuring protection of children on the internet in situations when one cannot depend on parents or such traditional family structures. John.
Yeah. Hello, Shalini, if you're still there. This is an excellent question, and it illustrates an argument that I've been engaged with for years. And in essence, there is a school of thought which has been saying, sometimes fairly explicitly, look, if kids' parents can't look after them and keep them safe, nobody else can. And it's just kind of like too bad. So we have to just always put the emphasis on parents. That is not acceptable. We don't accept that argument in any other area of life. We don't say, well, you know, if your parents don't stop you going into a pub to drink alcohol, you can drink alcohol. If your parents don't stop you buying a gun, you can buy a gun. No. Equally, it should be true in the internet as well. There are certain things like exposure to child pornography or child abuse images, exposure to violent pornography, buying guns, buying alcohol, tobacco, things of this kind, which can be solved fundamentally in technical ways. And I think we have to look to the industry. And by the way, most of the industry wants to do this, but there isn't an issue of principle here. They want to do it because we have a responsibility, whatever parents might be doing, to do what we can to keep them as safe as possible in the online space.
That really concludes our time. We're over time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions, your comments. We're here all week, or most of us anyway, so grab us, talk to us, and we'll get the information you need. I think this is probably one of the best sessions you'll probably be in the whole week, so keep it in your mind. Thank you. Bye.